In this episode, we will learn how to create classes. A class in Python is basically a blueprint. For example, let's take just a simple string, such as this, and if we run our little dir command, which we learned about earlier, we'll find out what methods x has. You can see there are a ton of methods here. In fact, we could find out exactly how many there are if we just do the length of dir x. You see there are 76 methods here. What this means is that x is an instance of a class, and that class happens to be a string class, which we can find out by using the type function. So, this tells us that we've just created an instance of a class. So, as I said before, what does this actually mean? It means that a class is a blueprint. So in this case, the string class has all of these methods in it, and they all make up what you can do with a string. Let's try creating our own class. Since this will be a little bit more involved, we're actually going to create a Python file. So just go File, New File. I'll drag this into our little screen. And let's try making a class. Now in Python 2, when you're creating a class, you use the class keyword and the class name, which is vehicle in this case, and you have to specify an object. This is like the base class that you would use to subclass from. But since we're using Python 3, we can skip the object part and just put a colon there. So far, so good. Now, good documentation standards mean that we need to put in some docstrings. A docstring is just an explanation of what this class will do. So in this case, we're going to create a vehicle. Create a vehicle. As you can see, a docstring is made up of three quotes. You can use single or double quotes, but the convention is usually double quotes. And most classes have an init function. This will initialize variables. And by convention, the first argument to the init and pretty much any other method in a class is self. The init is also known as the constructor if you come from a language that uses such things, and most languages do. In this case, we're not going to do anything with our vehicle class, we'll just make it pass. So as you can see, this is like the basis of a vehicle class, but it doesn't really do a whole lot of anything interesting. So let's actually give this thing something to do. Let's pass in some parameters, for example. So most vehicles have a color, they have a number of doors, and they also have tires. So instead of passing, let's create some attributes. Now what we're doing here is making these variables that we pass in available to the rest of our class. If we don't do the self dot whatever, then the variable will actually get garbage collected. So let's say that we just leave this one off. We'll just comment it out. Once we get out of the init function, tires just goes away and we can't use it anymore in any following functions. So to keep it around for a little while, we do self.tires equals tires. This will allow us to access it in other functions. For example, let's create a break function. And we'll add a docstring to this as well. Oops. It's trying to guess what I want to type here, which is actually kind of annoying. I don't really want it to do that. Stop the car. 1, 2, 3. Alright. This function is going to return a string, breaking. And just for fun, I'm going to show you that you can actually access tires here. So we'll just go ahead and print out what the tire number is. Alright. Now if you did print and just the word tires instead of self.tires, this wouldn't work and you'd get an attribute error. Alright, let's create one more function. Whoops. Must be an idle bug. I've never seen that before. Alright, so in this case we're going to drive the car. And we'll return I'm driving. Now this is kind of boring. You still can't do a whole lot. And we can't run this because if you actually go and do file run module, gotta save it. Let's just save this thing as a class test. You'll see that the idle restarted and we didn't get any output. Well, that's kind of boring, so let's go back and make it do some output. Alright, well now we're ready to actually start running this little script. If we run it right now, we won't actually get any output because we don't really print anything. So normally when I create a script like this, I'll write a little if statement at the end. This is the if name equals main script, which you'll see a lot of in your programming career as a Python programmer. These double underscores are known as dunder methods. So like double underscore name, double underscore is a special method that basically identifies that if name equals main means that this script is running. It's kind of confusing, but basically what this means is if you run this script, then anything underneath this if statement will run. If you import this script into another program, then the code underneath the if statement will not run. So basically what this is saying is if the name of the script equals main, run the following code. Else, don't do anything. So when you run it directly, name actually equals main. And I'll show you how this all works in a little bit. But first of all, we need to create an instance. So here we're creating an instance of vehicle that we're calling car. And we'll just make it a blue car with 4 doors and 4 tires. And let's also create a truck. So we get a truck and also a vehicle. But this will be a red truck with 5 doors and a couple of spare tires. So it's got 6 tires. Alright, let's try to run it. Let's save it and then we'll run it. Okay. Run module. As you can see, it didn't actually run anything. That's kind of weird. So let's try to figure out what happened. Basically, it put the car variable into our namespace, so we can actually still call it. So if we call car.break, for example, we can see what happens. It breaks. If we call drive, it'll say I'm driving. Let's try the truck. So truck.drive. Okay, it's driving. But how do you tell what the difference is between the two, really? Well, you can do car.color, and you find out that the car is blue. And if you call the truck, you'll find out that it's red. So let's go ahead and take a look at something that's always been kind of confusing for beginners. This whole self argument. The self argument in a class basically refers to whatever instance it is. So kind of think of it as how you refer to yourself. You know, like you have self-awareness, self-confidence, that kind of thing. Well, in this case, the car has self.color, self.doors, self.tires. So it knows how many tires, colors, what color it is, and how many doors it has. So that's what that self basically refers to. It refers to the instance. That's why when you call truck.color, it knows what color you are. Pretty cool, huh? Now we're ready to move on to subclasses. It's easiest to explain it by actually writing some code. Let's create a new class, and we'll call it the car class. And in this time, we're going to actually subclass it by passing it something. In this case, vehicle. Or let's call it the car class. Now normally when you subclass, you want to just override the base class, which in this case is vehicle. The base class, or the parent class is actually another word for it, defines all of these items, brake, drive, and it also does some initialization. So let's just override one of these methods. We'll override the brake method. Alright, we'll make sure that this is very clear what we're doing. I don't know why it does that. Override brake. And in this case, we'll return something a little bit different. Okay, so let's save that, and let's go change this code just a little bit down here, and make the car instance actually the car class. Yeah, it's a little bit confusing, but okay. So here we're going to create an instance of the car class, and we're also going to create an instance of the vehicle class, and try running it. Okay. Alright, so let's try this. Car.color is still blue, but car.brake should do something a little bit different. As you can see, it says something a little bit different than, say, if we did truck.brake. Well, that's interesting. Let's try to figure out what's going on here. Alright. So, the car class inherits all of these methods. So it still has a drive method, and it still has all these little attributes, color, doors, and tires. However, we changed the brake method in the car class. So instead of printing out the number of tires and returning the word braking, it now just returns the car class is braking slowly. So, as you can see, that's also why we're getting these numbers. It's printing out the number of tires, 4 and 6. But anyway, we overrode the brake class, the car class's brake method, so that it could print something a little bit different. This can get really powerful later on when you want to do lots of changing of classes, or you just want to create a base class with a bunch of base methods, and you just want to change it very slightly in its children classes, so to speak. I've always found it really helpful myself. At this point, you really know enough about classes to go out and try doing them yourself. I recommend giving the documentation that Python provides for you a good run through and read up on how they work. And then, watch the video a couple times if you don't quite understand what's going on. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I look forward to seeing you next time.